Guitar Place Planet. 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 Sunny skies, the smell of palm tree air. Looking back, I could never feel fair. The way the music has touched my soul, the way that the South holds its control. But I've got a new way to choose. I'm gonna start running back to the land of new. Oh, na 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 na. Holidays can ring in your fear. The ghost
We're live.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of AstroWorld TV. And I'm Dan Higgins, along with Eric and Jason, and we are your favorite Astro hosts. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel so you can get the notification on when we go live. Also, if you have any topics for anything we can incorporate into the show to make sure it's more entertaining or interesting, please let us know through comments or email. Tonight, we're going to talk about one of the ways to do astrophotography using what you may have already, a DSLR camera. This is how most people start, including myself. I first started with a Canon Rebel XD as my first CMOS sensor. It was 8 megapixels. It was no live view. It had a right angle viewfinder. I had to look in the bottom. It was just horrible. So, Eric, there are some rules that go along with DSLR cameras, whether it's full frame or crop. What's an image circle? Will I have vignetting? Let's start with the 4, 5, 600 rules. I guess they're more like guidelines and rules. You do more DSLR imaging than I do. What are your experiences with these rules?
Well, this is like you, Dan. This is how I got started in astrophotography. My first camera was and still is a Canon Rebel T3.
Really?
And it's great for getting started and just learning, about astrophotography. But the rules, the 4, 5, and 600 rules, they're more along the lines based off of a full frame camera. But
right.
I will show you a website that has a calculator that, based off of your particular camera sensor, it'll help you calculate your image as far as how long you need to image to avoid what we call star trailing.
Right.
And so we'll do that in just a second here. So there's a couple things, as well as the speed or how long your exposure is going to be, that you're going to also have to take into consideration. There's 3 main things. There's shutter speed. Okay. There's your ISO, and then there's also your aperture.
Right.
Your f-stop. Okay. Usually the wider your f-stop is, or if your aperture is open, that's where, when it's wide open like that, usually your exposure times are usually shorter. Okay. Now, usually also in your ISO, think of it, if you're familiar with, say, a standard CCD or a CMOS astrophotography camera, it's the equivalent of, I would say, your gain.
It is. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And then your shutter speed is simply that, as far as how long your shutter of your DSLR is going to be open, okay, to gather in all of that, to gather in as much light as it can possibly gather to hit that CMOS sensor to give you your image. Okay. So a couple of things when you're dealing with your aperture, with doing astrophotography, they recommend it try to be as wide open as possible.
Yeah, because when you're wide open like that, you get a little bit more forgiving.
Yes, you are a little bit more forgiving.
Yeah.
Yep.
You don't get star trail. Well, you still get star trails, but it doesn't become as apparent as quick as you would with.
When you get to star trails, that really deals with the 400, 500, 600 rule. As long as you can stay within the parameters of how you've calculated that rule, okay, you can avoid getting those star trails. All right. So another thing is the shutter speed. Shutter speed is really, really important because shutter speed is basically the length of time your shutter is open for you to gather that light. So if you keep it open too long, you could end up going through. If you keep it too short, you could clip or shorten, your exposure, because the histogram will tell you. The histogram is a very good indicator on how well your image, how well you've taken your image. You don't want it too far to the left, because that is clipping, and you don't want it too you don't want it too far to the right, because that's overexposure.
Yep.
Okay. So ideally you would want it either towards the middle or maybe closer to a third of the left side. okay, away from the left side, about a third away from the edge of the left side. Okay. Yeah. Or like I said, if you have it more towards your peak of your histogram, more towards the middle, it will probably be okay. But having it right there around the 1/3 mark, half mark, that's usually the sweet spot, the good area for your shot.
Just so we're clear, we're talking about the peak of the histogram,
yes,
right?
The peak of the histogram.
Yeah. Correct. So you're not starting at a third.
Yeah.
You want that peak at a third.
You want that peak either at the third point or at the halfway mark of your histogram. Anywhere past that, you're talking about overexposure.
Yep.
Okay. So what we're going to do is I'm going to share with you a website that Jason actually shared with me that's really handy, because with my camera, and now this is my camera here. It's like I said, it's a T3, and this is a 4/3 sensor. Okay, so it's not a full frame sensor. So that 400, 600, 500, 600 rule won't completely apply to this unless I had a full frame camera. But the website that I'm going to show you, that one does. That helps you. So let me go ahead and share my screen here.
Okay.
Okay, so this is lonelyspec.com. And I'm sorry? Make it full? Yeah. So this is the Lonely Spec Milky Way exposure calculator. And this is very handy for amateurs or novices who are just getting started. You only have a DSLR and you want to know how long can I shoot for if I'm doing astrophotography. Most users who just get started with a DSLR and they have just that standard 18, 35, or 55 millimeter lens, most of the time you actually are going to be shooting Milky Way shots. So if you go down here to the calculator, it will give you can enter in your sensor size, enter in your max ISO. And also another important thing to know is you have to know the focal length of your lens and the f-stop. Like I said, usually that you'll also see that on the lens. So as far to the right as you can go, or actually to the left. So the further you can go, the smaller the number. That's the minimum f number. Okay. Okay. For my Rokinon, I believe it's a 2 or a 2.8. I believe it's a 2. Others, it could be a 3.5. It just really depends on your particular type of lens. And simply you would enter in that size of your camera sensor, your max ISO. So a common one could be 3200 or 1600. But you can go as low as, to reduce that noise, you can go as low as 400, 800. You enter in your lens. So we had a 35 millimeter lens, and it was a minimum f-stop of 3.5. Now it tells you your shutter speed, or basically how long you can shoot, is 7 seconds.
Okay.
Okay. So this is very handy information to know how long, give a really good baseline, or get really good start rather, on how long your exposures, how long you can go for an exposure. So check this website out. It is really helpful. Like I said, this is the lonelyspec.com calculator for Milky Way.
That's actually a pretty cool little program on the way. I didn't even know about that until Jason told us about it a couple of minutes ago.
And it's actually more of a blog site. He started out kind of just wanting to share and blog, just like most of us that have kind of started channels and things like that. His name's Ian. Really good guy. He lives in California. He actually started creating a few pieces as well, products for the astrophotography world. But his blog pages have been extremely informative, and he's built really good calculators. The guy is just a wealth of information, and it's all free.
It's all free.
It's very helpful. Very, very helpful.
Yeah. Other things when getting started with your DSLR are is using that DSLR. It's really helpful if you have the live view. Using that live view window helps you get that star into focus. And as I mentioned, let me bring this back over here again. One thing that is very important, what about it, is a focusing mask, a focusing aid, like a batten-off mask.
Yeah.
So very important because this will give you the diffraction spikes that you will want to get. That center diffraction spike. It usually makes a cross and a line right through of a horizontal line, and you want to get that right dead in that horizontal line, right dead in the middle between the cross, between that X.
Yep.
Okay, and that helps you, and that lets you know basically that you're in focus. Okay, so you're ready to go once you get this locked in.
Yeah, I remember back in the day that we didn't have a batten-off mask. We had a Hartman mask.
Okay.
The first Hartman mask that came out was 3 circles and a piece of cardboard, and it would change your image of whatever you're looking at into 3 different circles. And if you got all your circles together, you were in focus. It never worked because what happens when one circle's dimmer than the other one? It never worked. So then they went to triangles on different angles. So once you got all the triangles converged, you were fine. And now you got the batten-off mask, which makes it really super easy, where you got this nice X there, and right down the middle is your diffraction spike for your focus. You get that in the middle, and you're pretty good to go, especially when you're doing some wide field or DSLR, just sky adventure tracking, that kind of stuff.
Exactly. Now, one other thing when you're using a DSLR is how do you know what initial setting you need to be on for your camera before you start to shoot? One thing I learned is set it to manual. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have to set it to manual, and you set your you set it also to, I believe it is bulb.
Yeah, so if in some of the newer DSLRs, like I think it's right after the 5Ds. I could be wrong about that for you Canon pros out there.
Mm-hmm.
But on the top little knob, instead of putting your shutter all the way down to bulb after 30 seconds, there's actually a setting on the top where it's a twist setting for actual. There's one for bulb and one for manual. Okay. So some software programs out there, if you're in manual, it's going to say, you got to be in bulb. If you got like a 560 Mark II or some of the newer version DSLRs, it's going to request that you definitely be in bulb. You can't do manual.
So you want to make sure you're there. Set, so you'll basically also your ISO setting, you will get that as you start taking preview photos and taking your test shots. You'll determine the ISO setting that you really need. For most, like I said, for most deep sky imaging, you're probably between 800, 1600, and maybe even 3200, depending on your target. If it's pretty dim, you might want to be at 3200, but usually for your brighter targets, say even if you're going after M31, the Andromeda Galaxy, or anything like that, you're probably at an 800. Sometimes, depending on your camera, you could be at a 400, but usually 800's a pretty good start for some type of low magnitude type of a target. If you're definitely going after, if you're just shooting stars, for example, if you're going to go after shooting a specific star, like say Sirius or Vega, you're probably going to go lower. You're probably going to go down to 400, maybe 200. It just depends. But take those test previews, take those shots, rely on, your viewer, your live view for those test shots, get those test results to help give you a good idea of if you're hitting that sweet spot with your ISO. So DSLRs are definitely the way to go to get started. Now, another question is all right, I've got a DSLR. What else do I need? Well, of course, I would say you definitely need a tripod. You can use a standard tripod. Yep. But one thing I'll also say is you would need a couple of things. One is an involumeter. Okay. Because this will help you hook this up, and this will help you set your shutter speed far enough away, because it has a nice long enough cord that you can be away from the tripod, from your camera, so there's no type of vibrations or anything like that. So,
and, there's some intervalometers out there. I don't know if you're talking about the same one, but there's some out there that actually help you make a sequence in your intervalometer where it will automatically shoot 10 photos at 30 seconds.
There you go.
So you could just sit there and you just use it. It's just a shutter release. You click, you program it, you click it, and walk away.
And you walk away.
Exactly.
So, and I think this one actually you can program it based off of to do that sequence. So yeah. Another thing you will want to have. Sorry, I don't want to drop my camera.
Don't drop the camera.
Yeah. I would recommend some sort of CLS or city light suppression filter, kind of like this. This is an astronomic city light suppression filter, or basically this is actually a clip model or a clip type.
The clip, an astronomic one, right?
Yeah, and this is an astronomic, and this is the one that you actually fits inside of my camera, just in front of the sensor. Okay. Yep. So makes it really easy. And so I highly recommend. And of course, you would want this because another reason is when you're taking shots, especially around stars, this helps with, if you even get a UV, that's a standard UV, you want to eliminate that bloating of the stars and things like that.
Oh, absolutely.
That's actually one of the things that Ian did with that website. He has a night sky light pollution filter.
Okay.
Along with the Batnoff mask that he printed, that you can do into a either an 85 or 100, and I believe 150 millimeter slide-in style filter, so that you can kind of change it between your different lenses by having different rings. So it's another avenue if you want to have it more cross-platform if you have multiple cameras.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea.
Yep. That's how I went for DSLR. It was just easier because then, as I changed out lenses, I didn't have to worry about clip-in filters or thread-on. It was just there.
So basically, with this type of setup, normally most people, when they're just getting started, they are definitely just using some sort of a telephoto type of lens. This is the Rokinon 135 f2 millimeter lens.
Little baby.
This is a full frame lens. It's a manual lens, and right here, I'm not sure you'll be able to see this on my screen, but it does have the f-stops that you can set. You just turn the dial to your particular f-stop, and you usually want to go as far to the left as possible, to the lowest number. Usually to the lowest. The lower the number, is usually probably the best number. Depending on the type of camera you have or what you're actually shooting and things like that.
Well, actually, Eric, one of the things that I found with most shooting with DSLR lenses is actually stopping down about 2 to 3 stops.
Okay.
The reason being is it gets you out of the coma. Because most lenses natively have coma. Doesn't matter how good or high quality glass you get, there's always a little bit of fringing on the outside. So by usually stopping down about 2 to 3 stops, it'll eliminate a lot of that. You'll still get a little bit, but it's plenty of light gathering, and I usually do my metric on that calculator you were referring to earlier, based on that 2 to 3 stops faster. So
so basically this one, the lowest is an f2, so you're recommending probably
like an f4 or 5,
5.6, something like
f4, f4, 5, somewhere in there. Yep,
something like in that range. So there you go. So great call out, Jason.
No,
so,
like I've got a Rokinon 14, and it's a native 1.4. So I usually shoot at about f3.
Okay, and that's still plenty fast. That's still plenty fast aperture. So definitely you're going to want to take advantage of those calculators like on Lonely Spec and use those to help you get started on how long you're going to need to take your first shots and things like that. Some of the other things that I would probably consider is software.
Sure.
Software, a lot of, manufacturers, when you buy a camera, they're going to come with their own types of software. But astrophotography software, how are you going to, do a sequence or things like that? You can use an envelometer instead of a sequence, but sometimes it's nice to have, dedicated astrophotography software to use with your camera.
Sure.
The one that I started out with, and one that's quite common and it's very inexpensive. It's only $50 for the license, and it's a lifetime license. It's a Backyard EOS, and they also have a Backyard Nikon.
Yep.
So, and what I'll do is I want to show you here if I can get it set up. And it is set up. Cool. I'll share my screen here. And this is Backyard EOS.
It's changed a lot since the last time I saw it.
Yeah, it's changed out a lot.
There's no big buttons anymore. They're all buttons are smaller and
yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, this was one of the first things that I used when I was using my I want to say it was $20 when I bought it originally with the Rebel. I think it was the Rebel XT when I had it. And it was definitely so much user friendly. You can make a sequence, and back then it only controlled the camera. So now it controls everything.
Yep. So basically, right now I'm in preview mode. Usually I have to I'm using my desktop, so I don't have the regular software like my Canon software or drivers like I normally would. So I'm putting it in a preview mode right now. But it would give you your camera information once you connect. And if you're if you're hooked up to an actual telescope, say if you're hooked up to or to your telescope and your mount, you can use ASCOM drivers to help manage those pieces of equipment, like say your focuser, if you have a filter wheel, things like that. But what's really cool is this also here is the capture plan center.
Yep.
So you can actually enter in your targets, such as if I wanted to go after Andromeda, I'll just put it in 31. And you can put in a description. You can put in the RA in the deck, and it'll have you set up where you want to save your files, either to a PC or to the camera or both. And if you want to start your sequence, you can just have a delay on when you want to get started. And it has your shutter speed, how many exposures you're going to do, the duration in seconds, the ISO settings, pauses in between, all these different things. And then you can simply click on Start Capture once you get it, and you can start your sequence. But this is great because it also has a frame and focus. If you're actually going to do planetary, there's a planetary setting, so you can run the AVI, the video on your camera.
Does it still have the 1x and 5x for planetary?
I'm sorry?
The 1x and 5x?
Yeah.
It does, right? Yeah. So
I believe it does, yeah.
Because a lot of times when you're dealing with sensors and you're doing like planetary, you really want to do a region of interest. So when you sit there and you can just square away the planet or, the planet and a satellite, whatever, you're imaging. If you could square away that little piece of the sensor that you want to concentrate on, it saves on so much time and space in your camera.
Yep. This one also, I had when I first got started, one of the things they always teach you, is learning about is polar alignment. This has a drift alignment setting, which is probably one of the best methods of polar alignment is drift aligning, from what I heard.
It is.
So, but yeah, $50. It's really inexpensive. And I would highly recommend, if you are going to get into astrophotography and you just want to get started inexpensively, this is one of the pieces of software that will help you. That will help you. So definitely would recommend this.
Yeah, it's super user friendly too. So I mean,
It is.
It's really not. There's not a huge learning curve if you've never touched, astrophotography software or planetarium software in general. The learning curve on it is very, very small. If you know anything about computers and you know anything about your camera, you'll be okay. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's basically all I have for my segment. So this is basically geared towards your novices, the people who are just getting started. They don't want to put in a lot of money, but they just want to use basically what they have.
Yeah, that's a great, that's a great start, because you know what, DSLRs are definitely the way. That's where I think we all got our start with DSLRs. Sooner or later, we moved up to cool cameras and some other things, because you find out sooner rather than later that although DSLRs can garner awesome results, I've seen some pictures out there with DSLRs that blow some CMOS cameras that are cooled away. But you know what? It takes a lot of work to get it there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where I started and quickly started realizing limitations. So I migrated to the Space Cat using my D850. And then once I realized that I just couldn't get the color, I saw everybody else's stuff and then started realizing, wait, they're all using dedicated cameras. So that's what precipitated the giant leap. Now, some people just really focus on driving towards the perfecting that DSLR and modifying the DSLR to make it work, and it will create remarkable results. But there is a fair amount of cost involved when you mod a DSLR. But just using them stock. I mean, the first year and a half that I did this, it was all DSLR.
It was all DSLR.
Yeah, I think most of us are in the same boat. And I'll tell you, I saw on Facebook, I want to say a couple of days ago, Jesse. If you know who Jesse, I don't want to say last names, but Jesse, she's all over the place. She's an astrophotographer. She actually modded her own DSLR and photographed it. I was like, listen, this is not for faint of heart people.
No, it's not.
I will send it to Hugh Tech or Hotech or whoever does it, whatever that company is. I'll just send it $400 and send it back to me, because I was on the YouTube video with Scott Roberts today he does a daily thing on Explore Scientific, and I was on with him. I said, listen, they were talking about upgrading a mount and how to kind of tweak the Exos 2 mount. And they took it apart and took out the belts and the bearings and took out the worm block and all this stuff. And I'm like, there is no way. I'm a techno idiot. I really am. I am the guy that pays people to kind of do these things. I'll save up for months to get the money to take care of something, because I just can't. I'm good with computers. I'm good with software. But when it comes to gears and belts and pulleys and whatever, that's not. No. So
I agree with you.
You know what though, and let's talk about some common mistakes that people make with DSLRs.
Okay.
And the first common mistake that you think about is noise.
Yes.
And that's what I think about. When I think about DSLRs, I think, God damn, noise. And then I look in the manual, I look in the menus, and I'm playing with stuff on the camera. I said, oh, wow, look, noise reduction.
Yeah.
Turn that on. Nah. Turn it off.
Turn it off.
Turn it off.
Turn it off. Now, when you're doing astrophotography, you want that long term.
Turn it off.
You want that off. You definitely.
There's a couple of reasons why you want it off, right? So one thing is that noise reduction. Not the first major thing is that it's going to double your exposure time. Because what it does, you take your 2-minute shot, and then it takes a 2-minute dark, and then it lays that dark onto the noise and minuses the noise. Now you got a 4-minute shot, a 2-minute shot in 4 minutes. So you're doubling your exposure time. So that's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing, especially, Chicago, New York, even Arizona. No, not so much Arizona.
Phoenix. You got Phoenix, but yeah.
We hate Jason. Jason, we don't like.
Hey, we still fight with it here. But
yeah. You get 200 and something days a year. We get about 20 in New York. So
well,
I mean,
it's law of averages.
well, the averages in New York stink. So,
Well,
but
the housing's going up here. You can move here.
the housing's going up here too. I should sell mine and move there.
There you go.
Hey, you know what? You probably afford 2 houses in Arizona where you can get in.
Right.
I was gonna say it's only 108.
I could deal with that. I'm fine with that. Said that's the land of central air. No problem. But anyway, so noise reduction is a big thing. So
Noise reduction, shut that thing off.
yeah, another thing with noise reduction, and a lot of people don't notice, and noise reduction in your camera, it creates more heat in the sensor because the computers inside are working so hard that it creates more thermal noise.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's a big problem. So you may be introducing more noise than you can take out.
Yep.
Well, and as you do it as well, not only you're increasing heat, but increasing your duration, but you're also creating a longer gap in between your sequences. And when you're doing a foreground, for example, your object in the sky is going to move drastically more incremental than if you were doing immediate shots. So as you compound doing that doubling of imaging, you're just making things worse as the night goes on.
Yep. A lot worse. Yeah, absolutely, Jason. That's a good point. Jason pops in and out. It's funny. He like,
Right?
he like pops in, pops out.
Nobody wants to see me full time. They're here for you guys.
Nobody wants to see us either, but we're here. So well, we're all happy that we're all here. We love doing this stuff, and we love sharing our knowledge with everybody. So whatever knowledge we got, throw it on the table.
Another thing that I've also that I got when I got started with astrophotography is, and you can actually purchase them, red dot indicators that you can actually put on the top of your telescope, not telescope, but your camera. They help you target that star or get that star that you're pointing to, making sure that it's right there. Kind of almost like a tail rad.
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, it's almost like a tail rad. Finder scope, things like that, but it's more like a red dot. So that helps you. So because I know you're looking at me there like, damn, like what? What are you talking about? Where are you going with this?
I'm going with a dot on the live view, and I'm like,
no, on the top of your camera.
Yep.
Gotcha.
It's a lot of guys are actually using the cheap versions from like Amazon. They're actually meant for handguns and small arms rifles.
Yep, I know what you're talking about.
But they make a hot shoe mount that makes it to mount to the Pinkney or whatever rail system you end up buying. And they're like $20. They're cheap. It takes a little bit to kind of get it centered and align your focus point to your red dot. But once you get it on a star and you have it pretty well dialed in, it makes tracking in the night sky so much easier.
Yeah, and they sell somewhere, and I saw it, and I don't know where I saw it. It's some random part store. There is a Vixen dovetail made in a hot shoe.
I've seen that. Yeah.
The only thing that sticks is that there's a thumb screw there that kind of isn't that stable. So you got to change out the thumb screw for something. They use a nylon thumb screw. It's pretty horrible, and it's like this long. It's crazy. But I bought one, and once you change that to a like a metal thumb screw where you got some stability, it's not great. But for $20,
Well, and again, anything that can help you in the night sky, especially with low light, it's going to be advantageous to your overall experience.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I never got one because I jumped right ahead. But if you want to try to keep your costs somewhat down, but you want to do long exposure, the key is that you have to have some sort of tracking mount.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of tracking mounts, such as the Sky Guider Pro, the Sky Tracker, that you can get that actually you can put on top of your tripod. You can put them on your tripod, and they're not super expensive. They're usually under $500.
Yep.
But you can set that up and you can connect that and you can mount your DSLR and your lens. You can mount your DSLR with the lens on that sky tracker, and it will help. And you can polar align, and then you can then start to track that object that you're trying to go after, say Andromeda, M42, the Orion Nebula, things like that. You're going to want to do long-term exposure, long period exposure. And so something like that helps you track and keeps you polar aligned, that's a really big thing. That's really helpful, really the best way to go. If you're going to do something long-term, you're going to be going and have that shutter open for like minutes.
Yeah.
Things like that. Now, if you're doing this basic Milky Way, things like that, yeah, you can go seconds and constantly take, those shots. But if you're doing something like, say, a nebula or some sort of deep space object, you really want something like that. You want to think about some sort of tracking mount. So another thing to think about
for tracking mounts, as far as, like you said, the Sky Guider Pro,
yep,
the Sky Adventurer.
Thank you. That's another one I was thinking of.
Well, I think the Sky Adventurer is the green guy.
Mm-hmm.
The Sky Guider Pro is from Ioptron, I think.
Yeah.
And I believe that, I was looking at it the other day because I was going to try and do some stuff with the Comet, and I'm trying to figure out how the hell am I going to do this, because for you guys that saw the show last week, I had to kind of drag my stuff for like a half a mile to try, but I wanted something small, so I was going to pull the trigger on a Sky Guider Pro, and they came out with the Ioptron Sky Guider Pro full package with the iPolar, and which is a polar alignment scope and a whole bunch of other stuff. I think it was like $600.
Yeah.
So I didn't pull the trigger on it. I called Chicken, and I said, you know what, I'll just I'll deal with it. I'm going to try this weekend. This weekend's supposed to be nice. So
yeah, I'm going to try again this weekend myself.
Yeah, and it's going to be a little bit on the nighttime. So.
Well, and that's the one nice thing with doing the DSLR. All you really need is an alt-az mount. So they're the lower cost of the overall tier of what we touched on last week, with the different mount types.
Yep.
But being that alt-az, it does kind of limit you, and also as you're dealing with northern southern hemisphere things, the alt-az's don't tend to work as easily in the southern hemisphere. They are still usable, but they're a little bit more work to get set up. So it's just one of the things you want to kind of keep mindful of as you're going about your configuration and purchasing hardware.
Right.
Yeah. Them Sigma Octans.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, these are the things I was talking to Dan about what were the ideas for the show. This is what I wanted to have an opportunity to talk about was how do we all get started? What are the things that we use to get started? And like you're working for Camera Concepts, you have these conversations with people, what do I need to buy? This and the other. And it's like and I have friends who have young kids who just want to get started with certain things and just want to learn astronomy, but they don't want, they don't have a huge budget and stuff like that. So something like this, if you have a DSLR that you use just for, for family photos, something, that you use almost, on for vacations and things like that, you can take advantage of the hobby that you're, starting to grow some interest in, and not make a huge investment of, thousands upon thousands of dollars. So think about that, when you want to, get started.
And you know what? You can get started for as low as like $6. I can think the lowest I can think of getting started is $60.
Yeah.
Okay. And everybody has a cell phone.
Absolutely.
Everybody's got one. There's a Facebook project out there. I think it's called iPhone Astronomy.
Yep.
And you sit there and look at these iPhone photos.
They're insane. They're awesome.
It is. It's obscene. It's ridiculous. And I'm sitting there looking at these guys, and I got a $2,300 camera and $1,000 worth of filters, and they're getting this with that iPhone that they're paying $40 a month.
Exactly.
But you can get something called it's the Celestron Next YZ.
Yes.
And you can take it and you can put it on there, and it moves in 3 axes, which is great. It goes up, down, right, left, and up, down this way. So you can get it right in, and it uses eyepiece projection.
Yep.
So you just plop it in there, and you get the eyepiece, and just sit there and boop, hit the phone, hit the phone, hit the phone, and that's it. The Samsungs are really good with it. Their cameras,
oh yes,
Yeah, the Samsungs are really good.
yeah,
the Google Pixel is it's crazy.
Yeah, the
I had
Pixel
a
4.
Google Pixel. I threw it in the garbage, but yeah, I have one.
And that was actually one of the features that I kind of played with when I got my new X Pro, or the 11 Pro, similar to what you've got. I wanted to see what it could do, and being able to set it up, and in the default app, being able to do a 30-second exposure made me go out and get a mount that I can put it on a regular tripod. So I can lock that thing off, get a decent shot kind of framed up, and hit 30 seconds and let her cook.
Let it go.
And, I am amazed how good the low-light images are coming off these cameras for something in my pocket.
Yeah.
It's insane.
So see, now you don't even need a DSLR.
Which everyone's playing Gardenscapes on anyway, so I mean...
Exactly. So... think about that.
we got somebody else. Jesse popped on. The one Jesse, I was just talking about you and your mod on your DSLR, so you missed it. So rewind it, watch it. But good to see you, Jess. Good to see you, Mark. I'm missing some people on Facebook, I'm sure. We're having some issues with our Facebook chat. So for anybody who's out there on Facebook watching us, thank you for the support. Thank you for watching us. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
What else do we got as far as? So what about? So we spoke a little bit about this in the last week's show about good targets to start with. You already spoke about the Orion Nebula, the Milky Way, the Andromeda Galaxy, a couple other things. Now let me ask you a question. Since you do a lot of DSLR photography, let's take a dim and a bright object in the same sensor shot.
Okay.
So let's take, what is it? Let's take the Horsehead Nebula.
Yeah.
With the star. I forget what star it is.
Though I know the one you're talking about. It's right there, right next to it.
The right one that gives everyone halos.
Yeah, they drive everybody crazy. Yeah.
So how would you do that, and how would you judge your ISO with that, and try and get the nebula and not overexpose that star?
That's tough.
I'm just curious.
It is tough, and a lot of times what I'll do is it'll be then about stacking. It'll be try to tame the star.
Yeah.
Because that is your brightest object. Tame the star and just keep multiple exposures. So eventually the stack, the more you stack, that nebula the nebulosity is going to show up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and you know what I tried, and I tried this once when I was doing DSLR photography, and this was back before PixInsight. This is more like the Photoshop days, where a lot of people still use Photoshop. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah,
or using PixInsight. You still use it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it.
Yeah. So there are some really good tools in Photoshop. So I'm not trying to knock it, but what you could do is, now at the age of PixInsight, there's a plugin called StarNet. And if you don't know what StarNet is, StarNet, what it will do, it'll automatically, with some time and some patience, will make a starless image for you.
You can actually get StarNet. It was called like StarNet Plus or something.
It's plus.
And you can actually use that now. It was a piece of software. You can actually run that without. Now you don't even need PixInsight. When it first got started and it came out, they added a module to PixInsight, for StarNet Double Plus. But when it first came out, it was just a free app.
Yep.
And I just ran it. I added in my. I just gave it my JPEG at the time because I did the Horsehead, as a matter of fact, and it got rid of all the stars. Of course, it didn't get rid of the main star, but it dimmed it down so much. That Horsehead Nebula the nebulosity was outstanding. You know,
Yeah.
I have to look for I know I've got it around here somewhere. I have to show that. That's pretty slick the way it did it. But no, I would highly recommend that. Yeah, for Star Plus Plus.
Yeah, I was messing around when I was doing my Heart Nebula project, and I did that with I wanted to get RGB stars with my narrowband Heart Nebula.
Yep.
So I took the narrowband Heart Nebula and made the Heart Nebula all nice and pretty, and then I had some RGB data. I did star lists, and I kind of plopped it all together, and it came out pretty good. It was nice.
And you see here. Yeah, I actually have it here. I'll have to hunt for it. But no, StarNet is awesome.
Yeah, it's a really good plugin, and now it's a plugin. But
now it's a plugin.
You know, it makes it more. You know, I guess they got on the PixInsight bandwagon and kind of made it so. And it's really cool. It's a really cool thing.
Yep, absolutely. I would definitely check that out. That's one that I would go for.
So what
okay, so here it is. So let me because if you have never seen StarNet Plus Plus, here's what it does. Let me just share my screen here really fast.
No.
And so there's the horse head.
Right.
And of course there's if you start your fighting with and everything. So pain in the butt. And then, wrong way. No, wrong way. Wrong one. Hold on. There it is. There it is. Look at that.
Yep.
And that's what it did. And go from this to that.
Yep.
That's a really cool piece of software right there.
I think even if you push StarNet a little bit further, would have gotten rid of everything.
I'm sure it would have. Would have. But this was like my first time actually using StarNet, and it did this. I was just astounded.
It definitely takes a little bit of tweaking. There are little weird settings in there that you got to get used to. But it's definitely a really, really cool piece of software engineering that they came up with to do that.
It is.
Because there was a way to do it in Photoshop, but it was a lot harder. And StarNet, you hit the button, you walk away for 20 minutes, no more stars.
Yep, come back.
No more stars.
There it is.
Oh, God.
There it is.
So let's talk a little bit about one other thing with DSLR, something that the cooling factor.
What cooling factor?
My point. So
that's why I moved over to a dedicated Astro.
Yeah, and that's always when you sit there and you decide that your photos just have gotten as good as they've gotten. Now you're thinking of, okay, now how do I get my DSLR in a fridge? Or you go
just wait for winter and just take all your DSLR shots.
Old camera. Now there was Primal Luce made for a very limited time, and they stopped making it. They don't make it anymore. It's a cooling box for a DSLR, and it goes over the back of the DSLR, and it's like this little cooling box. And there's a video on the Primal Luce Lab site. They think it's a joke thing, but it's not. They actually made it, and they stopped making it because it just didn't work. But But it was a cool idea. It was this little box that went around, and it was USB powered, had two fans in the back, and it just the problem was you got fans spinning on top of a DSLR. What happens? Everything shakes.
Yep.
So they got that fixed. Go ahead, Jeff.
There's actually a mod that was done for a couple of the Canons and for the D800. That you actually took the viewfinder, the electron EVF off the back, the monitor, and you could put a thermal cell on the back that was a heat exchanger, and it had micro fans, so it was supposed to create no vibration, but how does a fan do that? But it was using fins to actually do air cooling right on the back of the sensor because it replaced that whole hardware, but your camera's useless for anything other than Astro at that point.
Yeah, it is.
By the time you mod it, and you pay twice the price of the camera in order to make that possible.
Yeah, it's really tough to get a DSLR camera down to the temperature that you want, and that's another thing. Not to mention that the noise reduction, leaving that off, which is obviously not going to raise your exposure or your night. But now you got to take darks at close to the same time as you're taking your lights, because you want everything kind of close to the same temperature within a degree or two.
Yep.
So it's really, really difficult, and it does take a lot of your night away from you, because you're not able to cool a DSLR camera at this point in time with the technology.
Yeah. Well, so I'm going to bring this up. So.
Yep. Okay. Orion. Oh, wow.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. No. Mike, go. No? Can you guys hear me? Nope.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you guys can hear me on the stream, but they can't hear me out on the web. What about now, Mark?
You're not talking, Jason.
Okay, that looks like it's talking now. But you guys get the gist of it.
Yeah, I mean, the picture looks awesome, but I mean,
The picture looks really, really good.
you and I are gonna have to talk offline to find out what the hell I'm doing wrong, because that's
You and me both. We all got to get online.
I'm
really
still trying to figure out what I'm doing wrong.
I'm trying to figure out what you're doing right. So, so I mean, that's a really, really, yeah, it is a little bit advanced about what we're doing.
Yeah.
But you know what? To composite and mosaic that with the overlay and the feathering and stuff like that.
That was a fair amount of work in Photoshop and APP. So, you know, it's a hard balance. The big thing is getting the wide field shot that I really liked, but I just wasn't getting the color and punch out of the DSLR. Because of the filters. You know, you're inherently not able to get the same wavelengths of light because we have filters on the camera that are impeding that. If you remove those, they're great, but then when you're doing regular portraiture and regular photography, you have to spend a ton more time editing to get those things and work around those wavelengths that cause a lot of flares and other issues.
Sure.
Yeah. Now there are dedicated Astro DSLRs that you can buy that already have the filters removed.
Yep. The D10A for the Nikon side. I know the new Canon RA.
The Canon RA. You know,
the 60 DA.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're out there if you are
look
set on getting a DSLR camera strictly for astrophotography. Personally, this is just my own personal opinion. I wouldn't spend that kind of money on that type of a camera. I would just go forward with a dedicated either CCD or CMOS camera instead of spending money on that. I mean, DSLRs are, for the most part, in my opinion, were intended for vacation or for family moments and things like that. But, you know, to have, you know, at least the capability of doing what we're doing and for you to get started and exposed to astrophotography with what you have you spent already, you know, maybe just under $1,000 or in some cases over $1,000 on a camera. You know, sometimes you don't have any budget to go and buy something else new.
I was going to say, like the D10A was $3,800.
That's what I'm saying. So there you go.
So I mean, by the time you spend $3,800, you can get a decent cooled camera and a good, you know, astrograph like the Space Cat or even the Ascar 400. I mean, $1,000 lens.
Yeah, you got $1,000. You got $1,000 400mm scope quintuplet. Awesome. And you get a 533 for $900. Slap it on there. Don't forget your adapters that you're gonna need. All those freaking adapters you're gonna need.
Yep.
But
for that 88, you just spent $3,800. Man, you can get a CEM 25 or a AVX. You can get a really nice, you know, a refractor, and you can get a 183 or the 533, you know, for a camera. And you know you're already in the game, you know, if you want to go that route. So me personally, I think that's just, you know, for Canon and Nikon to do that, you know, it's a niche thing. Not a lot of people are going to buy them. They don't make a lot of them in the first place because they know they're going to sell a lot of them.
It is a niche program. It really is.
It's just a niche thing.
Well, and because of the prevalence of companies like ZWO that are making things so economically affordable, it really opens this up to the masses, which, you know, 10 years ago it wasn't, because you had to deal with the CMOS or the CCD cameras.
Yeah.
You know, you were in $2,000 just to get a decent CCD.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I mean, look at the cost of your S-Big.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, right in that S-Big model, the KAF 8300 Kodak chip, that model has been $2,000 or more, $2,300 for the monochrome, for 10 years.
Yeah.
That changed the price in 10 years.
But for $2,300, I can buy 2 to 3 other cameras that all specialize in different areas and give me different sensor sizes, mono versus color. You know, you can cover way more of the gamut.
If we're going to talk CCD versus CMOS, there are other things inherent to CMOS cameras that aren't inherent in CCD cameras.
Yeah, there are.
Unless you get a 533, you know, you're talking about amp plug. Or I'll call it quote-unquote amp plug, because it's not really amp plug. But there's also that lovely walking noise that you got in the ZWO cameras that you got to kind of phase out a little bit. So you don't have that in CCD cameras, you know. But then again, CCD, you have other issues with CCD cameras. So it's a give and take either way.
Yeah.
You just got to find the one that you're going to be able to master, and that's really what it is. What can you master?
What can you master? You're exactly right there, Jason.
And from a beginning standpoint, the DSLR is easy. They're relatively inexpensive to get into. They're multi-purpose, so it's not just for doing your deep space photography. You can do the family photography. You can do the events and things like that. You know, I've got a master's in photography from PP of A. I spent better part of, you know, a year and a half working towards that, almost 2 years. What does it do me now? Not a whole lot. I'm a video engineer by trade. But I had a portrait business for a while, and that portrait business did me really well. And I still use a lot of the same cameras. Now, granted, I've upgraded everything because I wanted into the higher. but I've made my way through. I'm on my 10th body in 22 years of doing this. You know, I started back on a D70S, and I've worked my way up from APS-C into full frame. Been through most of the gamut with full frames, and now I'm on their flagship model of the prosumer, the midline. I'm on the 850. You know, for me, it's not worth spending the money on a D5 or a D6. I don't get enough out of it for the benefits that I'm getting with my D850.
Right. Yeah. Right. There you.
But you know, I'm now using that as a freaking camcorder because it shoots video, and it does it really well. And I have 15 lenses that give me a lot of options. But again, all of that plays into doing the astrophotography because that's what most of these lenses were purchased for.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
so my 6D Mark II, a wonderful camera, that's what I'm using right now.
You know, for this stuff, I'm using a Hero 4 GoPro. You know, so I mean that's my camera. It's easy, it's close, and because I'm controlling the show as well, it's a small footprint, so I don't have a lot of things glaring at me other than a light over here and a light off to the side here, so that I have stuff so you guys can see me, because otherwise I'd just be a ghostly shadow in front of a black background.
Well, Mark was making fun of me and Eric before about that we would be melting in Arizona. I'm like, dude, come under these lights for about 20 I got lights. I got probably way too many lights in this room. But I mean, holy cow, I'm sweating. It's crazy. It's like 90 degrees. Yeah.
You're gonna have to get the LEDs because they're considerably cooler.
Yeah. I don't know what I got. I got that. Whatever came from China.
Yeah. Well, that could be dangerous.
He was awesome. But yeah. So I think for this segment, I think we've done, we've done pretty good to help explain, for people who are just wanting to do something with what they've got.
Now, one of the things that you guys didn't mention that I do want to kind of drive home is white balance.
Okay.
When a lot of people go out there, they forget about setting white balance.
Now, what is that white balance?
So white balance, most people don't understand, so it's always set to auto. But everything that we work in works in color temperatures. Right now I'm working at about a 4K exposure temperature because it's a color that looks good to me. It's a little bit more orange for Eric over there, so he's probably at about the 3200. We're at about 32 to 4K with Dan over there. So
I'm like 7,000.
But in doing that, inherently, you have to look at where you're at. Now, when I do a lot of my DSLR imaging for Astro, I prefer to be at about 4,400 Kelvin, between 44 and 48, which with my Nikons falls into the fluorescent preset. So on my D850, it's fluorescent preset 4. But with most DSLRs, low to high, you can actually dial in a fairly close stepped color temperature, and you always want to be at a fixed color temperature. Never be auto when you're doing night photography, because otherwise everything you do is for trash.
Correct me if I'm wrong. It's been a while since I've done. Way back in the day, I actually had a color card, the white color card.
Yep, the white balance.
And I did it with because I didn't like the color that I was getting from the older light pollution filters. It was like kind of off green.
Yep.
Kind of whatever.
Yep.
It was like an aqua blue, whatever it was. And I took my page.
Yep, your white card.
Of that with the filter on, and I set that as an auto white balance.
Which you can do that as well. Yep.
Yeah, so I wasn't really screwing things up. Okay, good.
No.
No, I was, because when I first got started, I still had, only thing I had set was manual. I had things at the bulb. I had no idea, so I've learned something, about white balance. When I first got started, everything was green, like an aqua green.
Well, and that's inherent in the sensor type. Back to what we were talking to last week. RGGB. Most DSLRs are in that RGGB space, as are most of our cooled cameras. All the ZWO platform are all RGGB.
So if they figure out to take a triangle pixel, we'll be okay.
So, I mean, that's one of the inherent things that you fight, but that's where color balance is really going to help you, because you can kind of focus, and you're only dealing with one variable, and that's the big thing with night photography, is you want to minimize your variables. You've got enough with light pollution, the fact that you're out in the dark, half the time you're scrambling to get things set up because you either got there late or aren't fully prepared. So it's creating this mental checklist. So the first thing for me, white balance and my exposure. So if I'm on a 1.4 lens, I'm going to automatically set my stuff to an f3.4, f4, depending on the lens. I'm going to go through and set my exposure. I'm going to set my ISO, not auto ranging. It's going to be fixed. And you need to spend some time kind of figuring out where that noise floor is. That's one of the other things that we didn't really touch on, was ISO and noise floor.
Swamping the noise.
Yep.
You gotta swamp that noise.
Well, and that's one of the blessings of shooting with the 850 in particular, because that's what I use now. I can shoot up to 1600 and still pull a pretty decent image. It's going to be a little grainy. I'm going to have a little bit of ISO noise.
Little work to do.
But if I'm shooting on a perfectly non-moonlit night, new moon, where I don't have any of those variables, I'll drop down to 800 and just shoot more images.
Yeah.
The reason being, I get a much cleaner image.
I haven't done a lot of DSLR imaging, but I've found that running it close to native ISO, meaning 100, 200, that low. Yep. You're able to kind of get rid of all that. I mean, yeah, it's dim, but you need to take a lot more images, or the longer exposure at the lower ISO would garner you less noise than a 16 or 3200 ISO and same exposure.
So this image is a DSLR image. It's another one of the ones I sent you earlier today, Dan, or yesterday. This is a DSLR image shot about 2 years ago out in Queens Valley with Mark and my buddy Steve and a few other friends of our Astro group. This was it's a stacked and tracked image. Stacked, not tracked. What I did was I stacked 45 images, 30-second images.
45 30-second images.
Yep.
God, we hate you.
So the glow that we're seeing in the lower right corner is actually from a copper mine.
Okay.
So that's what all that orange glow is. The kind of whitish glow in the middle is the city lights. That's looking out towards Tucson.
Okay.
And that kind of hook in the middle of the Milky Way there, in the upper middle, is actually a meteor that blew through. One of our friends that was with us actually captured the meteor itself streaking through the sky, but I only caught, because I just started imaging right after it went through, it was a real bright flash, and then this radial cloud that kind of grew out of it, so it's kind of neat. But what I'm wanting to point out here is the fact that I'm shooting at, I want to say this is at 800 ISO. So I'm looking at about 45 images total, and then I picked one image to paint the foreground back in using layer masking in Photoshop.
Right.
And all the alignment was done in Photoshop, doing auto stack and align, and then masking out the foreground.
Oh, we got some. It says Dan is echoing. It says, and Mark Ellis said, "Let's go over filters next week: LRGB, narrowband, and some dual band or tri-band filters."
Awesome.
That's a good idea.
That's a great idea. Yeah, cool.
Thanks, Mark. You just came up with our topic for next week because we had no idea what we were doing. There you go. He said that. George said that. Hi, George. How you doing? That's our buddy George, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's a little early for you, George. I think you're in Scotland. So it's got to be somewhere close to 6 a.m. for you, or something like that. 4 a.m. But
it's not that I'm trying to get my images on there, guys, but since we're talking about it, I have them somewhat available.
That was cool.
Yeah, that's cool stuff, man.
But, you know, and this has been a learning curve and that's actually how Mark Ellis, who's watching, and I met. We met through another buddy that was doing some workshops, and he and I have become great friends out of this. And, you know, he and I do a lot of our imaging together. I've got another buddy, Steve, lives up in North Phoenix. We hang out and do some stuff together once in a while. But that's where I've learned 90% of this, and it's been trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to chat offline because you're gonna have to help me with my white balance and all that stuff. Because eventually, I'm gonna have to take this thing out, and I haven't used this DSLR in about 2.5 years, 3 years, and I bought it pretty much.
Did you just sell a camera to get another camera? Now you're talking about using this camera?
Well, I want to go after NeoWise. You know, and
okay.
So
yeah.
I gotta talk to Jason here a little bit so he can give me some tips on setting white balance and all this other stuff, because I don't know what to spend like an hour out going after this darn comet and then everything is green.
Man, take it out. Don't worry about it. As long as it doesn't break up, you're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, the base reference. So, you know, I'm at 4,400 Kelvin is my baseline. It works both Canon and Nikon, Sony. It doesn't matter. I shoot with if I have a lot of sky glow, like I did in that image that I just showed.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was not shooting a light pollution filter there because it just didn't get set up because we were rushing to get set. We were a little late. But your color temperature might change a little bit. You know, go from 44 to 48. If you put a light filter on, just to get that little bit bluer color, because I prefer that kind of more bluish tint.
Right.
But when you look at your image on the back of your camera, it's going to look a little pink, and you want that. Because then when you go and pump that to 56 in post, those colors are going to explode off your screen.
Huh.
And it makes a world of difference.
That's interesting.
Okay. Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to mess around with this thing.
Well, and it's trial and error.
It is.
You know, and all of my references have been based off of Milky Way, because that's most of what I shot until I got the dedicated cameras, and I felt more confident. You know, I tried photographing Andromeda, and I could see it. It was a whitish dust cloud in an oval shape.
Yep.
But man, once I got the dedicated Astro camera, how much more detail I got, and then got into doing, you know, today I just got my L Extreme filter just came in. So
you got one, huh?
I got one. So I haven't played with it yet. It just came in the mail today.
Another unboxing for you.
Well, I'm still trying to get the first one from that ASCAR.
Hey.
But you know, I can kind of put that up here too, if I can find what I do with my window.
Well, one thing we didn't talk about as far as DSLR cameras is if you don't want to do all this crazy stuff with DSLR cameras, but you want to knock two birds with that one stone.
Yep.
Piggyback.
Yep.
There you go.
You can pop it right on the top. You can take guided camera shots with your regular stock 18 to 55, throw it on top. Take some shots.
The other thing that I've done with that as well is like the GoPro Hero 4, Hero 8, and 7 have really good low light. Smacking that up there and letting it do a track of what you're shooting in the sky, but do it wide field. You know, shoot that thing super wide.
Yeah.
You know, now the terminology is ultra linear, I believe.
Yeah.
But, you know, throwing that up there and making that into a video lapse, you know, have it set, it's bracketing images, you know, however you want to do your interval. Let it auto build your video lapse. And when you're done, it's going to spit out an MOV or M4V file.
Yep.
And you've got an entire time lapse of what your scope did from its perspective, but you get a bigger picture.
And George, first of all, I got to apologize. I guess I mixed you up with somebody else. I apologize. George is from Fort Worth, which is down the block from some other people that I know. But he had a question regarding flats and DSLRs. Now, for you DSLR fans out there, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I did flats was in aperture mode. So priority mode. And you just take your flat panel, you put it on top, and then aperture priority mode, no matter what the illumination of your flat panel is, will get your histogram right to that about 50%.
Yep. Yeah, it should be a spike right dead center.
Yeah, right in the middle, right?
Yep.
So you just sit there and you say, okay, you know what? Take
100 pictures.
100 shots. It'll go click, 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 and you're done. That's one of the really great things about DSLRs is you just sit at the aperture mode and it does your flats for you, man. You just got to put the flat panel on top and go. But yeah, if you set it up to the AV or aperture priority, I think I don't know if AV, and I think Nikon has something else. AV is a Canon.
Yep. It's A is aperture priority for
just
Nikon.
A.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So just set it to that, and set your sequence and let it run.
Yep.
And it'll go.
Yeah, and don't forget also your biases. That's really easy. Same with your darks. That's all easy stuff. Set it to the fastest. I believe the fastest speed.
Not your darks, your biases.
Your biases.
Yep.
Your biases.
Yeah.
And then
whatever it is, 1/3200th of a second or whatever it is.
Yeah, like with the 850, it's 1/8,000th of a second.
1/8,000.
1/8,000th.
How much data are you really getting at 1/8,000th of a second?
All of it.
all 1/8,000th of it.
Yeah, you can take a quick 100 of those, and you'll be done. You'll be done in a second.
Yeah, just take 8,000 of them. Don't worry about it. Only gonna take 1 second.
Just take a second.
You're right.
But with the DSLR, I didn't really do a whole lot of flats, so most of my stuff was just native with no calibration frames.
Yeah.
I dealt with noise just because of the inherent nature of my DSLR. It was fairly low noise until I got into the about above 1,000 ISO.
Okay.
The real brain melt for me going DSLR to one-shot color cooled cameras, the equation between gain and ISO still doesn't make sense.
What? I'm sorry, the what?
Gain to ISO.
Yeah, the equation between the two. Yeah,
they don't correlate.
We talked about that before the show.
Yeah, well, and they don't really correlate. And every camera's different. And as I found, even with my one-shot colors, I was going off of the graphs that are posted on ZWO's website.
Sure.
So for both cameras, I have the 533 and the 2600. They both their peak QE is at about 100 gain. But in talking with TJ Conley and with Simon and a couple other guys that you guys have had on the show, I can get just as good an image at 0 as I can at 100 gain. And I don't really get more or less noise, but why shoot at 100 gain when you can shoot at 0?
Yeah, that's true. You get a better dynamic range.
I shoot at 0 to get the dynamic range, and really not initially knowing that or understanding that, and getting educated by TJ, who was instrumental in helping me figure that out. I shoot everything at 0 now. It's just, I still have Dark's library at 100 gain for most of my exposure range.
Right.
But 99% of what I shoot now is all at 0 gain.
Wow.
Just because it gives me more detail. And I'll pop this
again. You're gonna have to help me with this stuff, dude.
Jason's gonna be the teacher.
You've been talking to DJ a lot more than I have, so I'm gonna have to get that information, that knowledge, from TJ through you for a little bit, so I can nail him down for a little bit. Well,
so I mean, I didn't really want to reveal this till the video, but I'm hoping to get the video up tonight. This is my first lights from the ASCAR 400, FRA 400. That's with the that's North America and Pelican. It's 70 images. They're 5-minute shots, stacked and tracked. This is on my CEM 40 using the L Pro filter, or sorry, L enhanced.
Okay.
And then stacked everything in APP and then processed in PixInsight.
Wow.
Nice.
I'm just using the base photo program here. But I mean, you can see the detail that I still have. A little soft because I don't have autofocus set up. Still waiting for that feature from ZWO.
Yo, come on, man. I'm waiting.
They're working on it. We should be getting a beta hopefully here in the next week or two.
Yeah.
But you can kind of see, I mean, the amount of detail I pulled out. This is the equivalent.
That's a zero gain?
This is zero gain with the 2600 using the L enhanced and on the 2600.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So,
That's good.
you know, I had the focal reducer in, so I'm shooting at 280 millimeter with the custom 0.7 focal reducer, takes it down to an f3.9. I don't think I would have been able to get this level of detail in one night's imaging with 75-minute exposures using my Space Cat.
Wow.
And yeah, I'll clear this off and see if I can find my Pelican Nebula with my other camera.
You know the sad thing? I have no new data at all. Zero.
Well, I really want more new data. It's just been so dang hot. It's been 110 to 115 here the last week and a half, and I just at 9 o'clock I just don't want to go out and stand out there for the 30 minutes it's going to take me to get everything set, because everything's set in my backyard. So all I have to do is go put the camera on, do the polar line, get the adjustments made to the mount head on my tri-pier, and once it's set and I've got good focus and everything's polar aligned and I'm in the range that I feel is my happy place, I go sit in my man chair with my iPad right next to me in the air conditioning. It's hardwired to my network, so I can access it anywhere in the house. And I just spray and pray. You know, if it's focus drifting about every 30 minutes, I'll stop it, go into into the focus mode, and manually try to adjust the focus to get caught up a little bit. I was just reading some of the comments from Mark, but let me pull this one up.
But, you know, right now, I wasn't, you know, I'm working on a project with, because you saw my last video that I posted. So I've got the Rasa 8 mounted on right now. And I was actually going after the shark. But I was using the 533. And this is a lesson, especially when it comes to field of view calculation, why it's so important. The shark, I mean, I barely got with that 533 since it's such, you know, a narrow field of view with that sensor. I pretty much trashed everything, and had to switch out to my 294.
Well,
you know,
so that's speaking of that. So this is Pelican with a 533 on my ED 102 from Explore Scientific.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's really good.
That's 2 nights of imaging, 5 hours of total image acquisition. Again, zero gain on the 533, cooled to -10 Celsius, with the L enhanced.
Okay.
Oplong L enhanced. So, I mean, but, you know, you want to talk field of view, so we go from that on the 102, so 714 millimeter. With the focal reducer in, takes me to 580-ish. Pelican Nebula is right here.
And that's with the 2600.
That's with the 2600. So that's field of view difference. No, both scope and camera. What I really need to do is shoot the same.
That's why it's so important.
Yeah. But I mean, the level of detail from 2 nights of imaging to get this. You know, and I still have a ways to go. This is not by any stretch of the imagination a mountable piece, but it's the best I've shot of Pelican Nebula in the month and a half I've been chasing it.
Wow. That was great. I can't wait to get my stuff started. I really am. Oh, Star Arizona, Doug Dean from Star Arizona texted me. The pure plate is finally on its way back to me.
Hallelujah.
Holy crap! I'm supposedly getting it on Monday, the 20th.
Okay.
And that will make it about 52 days.
But it'll be worth it.
It will.
Hope. I mean, I can't. You know what? It's gonna take me 3 days to get this thing like
Dialed
put
in.
together. Yeah. But once it gets in, I'll be good for winter time. Yeah,
Mark says gold plated.
I wish. He went to the same place they got you chromas.
No, he got those from OPT. So.
Oh no, yeah, sorry, they didn't go there. Ouch! Sorry, Mark. I'm sorry. I know it's a sore spot. I know. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have
speaking of sore spots, Dan, I've told you about this earlier, and I didn't have a chance to update you.
I'm
the
scared.
RA issue came back again on my.
Oh, you told me, yes.
It returned, but I was able to get it fixed rather quickly this time. The following night, it was all good. But if anybody has a CGX and they're dealing with, their guiding, it's off, and those high error numbers on the RA and deck, do me a favor, check out Dylan O'Donnell's latest YouTube video where he actually hypertuned, in a way, quote unquote hypertuned, his CGX mount. And it's basically just doing the same exact thing that I did, which is there's 2 screws. But check it out. If you have a CGX, and you probably know what I mean. But check it out. It's helpful. But no, I think I'm going to get to the point where I'm probably going to be done with the CGX.
I'm so happy. I never went the Celestron route with mounts. I've always, for 15 years now, I've had a center mount. So, with the exception of this guy, this is center mount too. But it's like it's EQ mod. It's a little clunky, but it works.
Well, and that's I had the AVX. That was my starter mount getting into the
Still have mine. Yep.
EQ. It worked okay. The problem I had is I'm lazy, so I really fell in love with the ASI Air. I want to be able to just go out, plug in, not have to pull a laptop, do all the extra connections, have 10 pieces of software run. It was too much. I wanted quick and easy, and that's what I got.
Yeah.
I had some learning curves, but I've got it pretty well figured out. I'm not perfect, I'm not a pro at it, but I've got it stable. Yep. And one of the things that killed me was when it did a meridian flip, it would reset and shut off the guiding.
That's what happens to the CGX as well. It kills the guiding, turns off the tracking, the whole thing. Yeah. And
I'm like, so I got to set an alarm for the rough window when it's going to do its flip. Get up, go out there, wait for it to redo it, pause everything, go through, return on everything, back up, make sure it's working, redo the guiding, because of course with the flip it screwed up the guiding, so I got to redo the calibration on it. And then get it all going, so 5-7 minutes, whatever, and then fire it back up and let it rip until 4 a.m. when the sun starts coming up and ruins the sky, so that back to life again.
I love Sequence Generator Pro when it does its automatic meridian flip. It'll sit there and it does turn off the guiding, or it doesn't. There's a little checkbox there. You could do it or do it not do it. You could turn it off, turn it on, do whatever. There's a lot of settings in there that you could do that with the meridian flip that you can't do with the ASI Air.
But the problem wasn't the ASI Air. The problem was internal to the hand controller. It was receiving a command that was actually shutting off all tracking.
I thought you meant
RA and deck stopped.
ASI Air.
EQ North didn't exist. It went to off. You had to go turn EQ North back on. Yep. Then you had to go back and redo your guide calibration. It was such a pain. And I'm like, you know what? It's not worth it. So I did some research. I posted to a couple of groups, and everybody pushed me to the iOptron platform.
Yeah.
Wasn't a hard sell because I already had the Sky Guider Pro, which is what I've been using for my guided stuff afield with when I started this. So, an Altaz mount. Still have it. Works good. Just don't use it. It's sitting there collecting dust because I have now my CEM40.
Yeah.
And I was really on the fence of where to go, and I'm lazy, so I like the idea that it's got GPS built in. The only thing that the CEM40 doesn't have that I'd like is the Wi-Fi. It's not a deal breaker. For $129, I can add it and remove the GPS once it's acquired signal. But again, the only thing I need that for is Sky Safari. Am I really going to use it because the internal catalog to the SI Air?
Yes, it's got it. Yeah,
It's been 98% solid, and it plate solves
There you go.
every time.
Yeah. One thing is that I'll be looking forward to also is when and I know that ZW is going to do it, is when they start expanding their catalog, their internal catalog even a bit more. It'll be nice because I know that they've added comments to the latest.
Yep.
Did they?
Which is nice. But it'll be nice if I know they have Messier, they have NGC, IC, and now Comets. But it'd be nice if they could start adding maybe
I think they're adding some satellites as well.
Okay.
Got some questions on the thing here. Steve Flanagan wants to know, I wonder how big of a difference the L Extreme is versus the L Enhance.
Well, it's two. It filters out. It's two band passes versus with the L Enhance, it's doing O3, HA, and H beta.
Yeah. So what the L Extreme does is they kind of shift it up a little right, and they get rid of most of the H beta.
Yeah.
Yep. It's more H alpha.
Narrow down a little bit more tighter.
Yep.
So H alpha is coming through stronger.
Yeah.
And then your
nanometers
area. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think they cut it even down. The bandpass now, they shrunk it down because I believe it was around 12 nanometers or maybe something like that. And it shrunk it down like maybe 6 nanometers, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd have to look at the
I
graph.
have to check. I have to take a look and see if they narrowed down the bandpass a bit too as well.
They might have. That's definitely
Maybe dropped down like 6 or 7. But I'll take a look. Yeah, Jason, you just got it, so you be able to tell us.
Well, and that's the thing. Did I need it? Probably not. But for me, if I can find a way to more narrowly focus my light, depending on what I'm shooting, I'm going to get a better image.
You are?
And it's going to be less work in post.
Yep.
And that's my end goal. Less work in post. I want to be able to churn an image out in a couple of days, which is why I don't have the spectacular images that some of the other Astro Imagers have. I'm still learning this. I've only been playing with APP for almost a year now. I just got into PI 2 months ago. I have a ton to learn. I'm still trying to. Still trying to learn this stuff that I got from the Adam Block, and his subscription. And a year from now, it's going to be day and night, and the stuff I turned up that I just showed you is going to look like poop.
Oh yeah.
But you know what? That's
you want to save those photos that you're doing now, and then compare them to 2 years.
Yep.
You'll see a marked difference if you're using the same rig. So I mean, it's. Steve Flanagan, the skies are taunting me tonight. It's so clear right now, but my app says a huge sheet of clouds are like minutes away.
all right. Who bought gear?
I didn't buy it. No, well, I got some stuff. Well, my pure plate's coming, if that counts.
I got my Alex Stream, but I'm not putting it on. It's too dang hot.
Yeah.
It's 104 out still.
Well, I got for whatever reason I got an L Pro. Just so I could see. I wanted to see the difference between the L Pro and the Battle Moon and Sky Glow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm gonna do that. That'll be a little testing thing that I got going on.
I have the L Pro and the L Enhance.
I got the L Enhance sitting on a shelf right here.
For me, it was that gave me kind of the best coverage of both worlds, short of buying a quad band or tri-band filter.
Yeah.
And for the price point, I could get the 2 filters, which basically covered a quad or a tri-band fairly decently, and gave me a pretty decent coverage of the sky for about $450.
Yep.
And then it was about $310-ish for the L Extreme. and I look forward to doing some first lights with it. I don't really know that I'll probably do a first lights video or anything, but I will post photos.
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay.
But hopefully I can do like 2 nights back to back, where I could do L Extreme or versus like the L Enhance or L Pro on the same target. So maybe I'll try aiming to do that. Yep. Do the exact same processing on all 3 and see what it comes out at.
That's gonna be cool.
Cool, guys.
I just can't wait to get some more data. I can't wait to get data. I haven't had a good shot of new data in literally like weeks.
Yeah. That's been the one nice thing with COVID is I've been home, so I've got probably 25 nights of imaging.
I hate you.
Well, of 25 nights, I've got about 3 days of usable data.
Yeah, it is more than what I got.
You dropped down, going from Unity, 100 down to 0. Me doing this Nebula, doing the Shark, I was at Unity with the 294, and it started looking like garbage as far as the stars. I mean, they're so overexposed and bloated.
Yep.
Even using the L Pro,
Yeah.
So I decided, you know what? I'm going to drop the gain down. Now I'm down to 60.
Yep.
And I was able, and I'm on the Rasa, and I'm doing. I think I was doing between 3 minute and 5 minute exposures, and it's night and day.
Yeah,
it is absolute night and day. On how my test images and my images are coming out right now.
Well,
so I can't wait. I'm gonna do another night of 60. Of 60 gain.
Yeah.
So that it'll give me basically, I think, 3 nights worth, and then I'll see how things turn out.
Well, and the other thing is, especially with your 533, Eric, drop that down to 0 gain.
Yeah.
You're going to get a ton more definite dynamic range in it.
Yep.
And you're going to get a lot more signal out of your images.
Okay. Well, that's the one thing I'll have to do as well is I'll go ahead and have to build a new library for 0 gain and do that.
But in the short term, like almost everything that I'm shooting right now, I'm shooting at 300 seconds, so 5 minutes.
Yep.
For the short term, set it up before you go to work. Let the thing burn with the ASI air.
Exactly. That's what I'm doing right now. I've got that because I never had a 60 gain library.
Yep.
So right now I've got the 294 downstairs because I've got the version 1, the version 1 ASI air is downstairs right now, and I've got the 294 sitting in my beer fridge.
Well, so that's the thing. Like, I've got the cooled camera. So what I do, I'm not going to stick it in the fridge because the wife won't approve it. But I just run a fan over it. I've got one of these little Vornado fans, a little 8-inch.
Yep.
I kick that thing to medium, put it close, let it blow across the fins, not into the fan itself. I can drop that and consistently get down to 9.8 to 10.0 negative Celsius. Rock solid. I've always been able to get my darks library. The one thing I am finding is with my Starzona filter slider, I get light leak because the area that I have it set up is near 2 windows.
Okay.
So I have to drape a dishcloth or a washcloth over top of it to block out the light.
Sure.
So I just wrap a bungee cord to create a good dark seal.
Yep.
And that's where I do all my darks library. It's literally sitting with the fan blowing through the fins just to increase that airflow. And I can get down to negative 10 Celsius, no problem.
Good.
So
for you CMOS guys out there, because I don't have CMOS, I got CPD. But Steve Flanagan's asking, is there any negatives to 0 gain?
not that I've understood. And TJ could probably speak to that much better than I can, of course, being new to that. But the dynamic range you're going to gain at gain 0 is going to far outweigh most of the disadvantages that you may come across.
Okay. He wants to know, does it... Well, no, it wouldn't introduce any more noise in Unity. It would introduce less, if anything.
Less, if anything, because as you're increasing gain, you're going to increase noise. And if you look at your noise scope, you're going to see that on your curve.
Yep.
So if anything, it's only going to become better.
Right.
Which is why inherently when you're using the software side of the ASIR camera app,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's ASI Cam.
Yeah, as you can.
Its Unity is 0. It will default to 0 gain. Mark was doing it, and I'm like, why are you doing that? It shows that the best point's at 100 gain. He's like, no, it's at 0. Shoot at 0. And my images have definitely taken a drastic uptick in quality. And stacking more nights of data. That's the big thing that I'm working on right now. I can get about 4 to 5 hours, depending on clouds and when I get started. Usually I start setting up right now about 8:30 and can start imaging about 9:15. And I'll image right up until about 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. So I can, if I get started early, I'll lose a little bit on the front and back because of still getting nautical light.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, I'll still be able to pull 3.5 to 4.5 hours of data. And even if I exclude those outliers, 5 shots on the front and back,
Right.
it makes a drastic difference in what I'm getting.
Absolutely.
But, like with the Pelican, that was 3 nights, 60 images a night at 5 minutes. So that's 4 hours of data, or 4.5 hours of data acquisition.
Yeah, it makes me want to go to a color camera sometimes.
I'll be honest with you, because you guys know what I did. I pulled the trigger and I said bye-bye to the 1600.
Yep.
Yeah, you told me, yeah.
Yeah, we talked about it last week, and it's already gone.
Yeah, it's already gone. It was gone the night that we that night. Say again?
It sold in 3 hours?
Sold in 3 hours.
Yep.
Sold in 3 hours.
Well, like Mark's got, he just bought the QHY 600.
600, right, yeah.
And he has a 1600 with a filter wheel. They're mounted. I told him, I'm like, if you're not going to use the thing, get it up on cloudy nights. Eric put his up, gone.
Gone. Yep.
People are scrounging for them, and they're not available.
They're not available. They are not available, and I sold it for $50, the whole package, because I could have had the 8-slot filter wheel. I had Optilong, LRGB, SHO filters, and 1.25 inch L Pro that I was going to use for luminance.
Right.
Luminance channel. I sold all that for $50 less than what I paid for it. So.
Wow.
And I know the person who's going to be happy. I know the person's going to be happy when he gets it, because I only used it basically to create. I used it for one set of test lights and to make my dark library. And that was it. So I just don't have time. I've seen how the 1600 works. I've seen Chuck's images when he does. When he's working with that 1600, so I know it's a fantastic camera.
Yep.
Personally, I just don't have the time.
Well, and that's the thing.
And all the patience.
Well, I would love to get into mono. The problem I have is the inherent nature in my business before COVID hit. I travel 200 days a year. Yep. I don't have the time to do 5-6 nights of imaging to get all of the different filters.
Yeah.
And I don't have the financial bandwidth to buy 3 or 4 different outfits to be imaging different cameras, all the same rig, to be able to gather it multiple times through multiple rigs, same night.
Yeah.
So I've been doing mono since I've gotten my, when I decided to make the splurge into CCD, because there was no ZWO when I bought my camera. I said, all right, I'm going to get, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. So I bought the S-Big just because, even when I was a kid, S-Big was like, oh my God, it was like a Porsche, So I bought the S-Big, it was, I guess, the first red camera. So I bought it because it was red, and us Americans, we like red things. So I bought that, and then I bought the the Astrodons, and I threw those in there. And you know what? I don't know any difference.
Right.
Between what I would get if I get a KF 8300 that was color, you know what I mean, and kind of put them next to each other. I wonder what it would look like, because I don't know what another CCD color chip would look like, or what the benefits would be of just, and the negatives would be about going to color versus mono, because all I've had was mono with the exception of DSLR.
Right.
Well, the big thing for me with choosing the platforms I did, again, my common thread, I'm lazy. I didn't want to deal with a ton of calibration frames. Now, I was finding the importance and the value in doing them, but I'm not dealing with removing amp glow. So my darks and flats and all that are removing dust mites and the sensor noise, the sensor read noise, and that really shows in my images. It's a drastic difference, and not that the 294 is a bad camera, but I can see the difference between the 294 and my 533, which are roughly it's roughly the same pixel pitch.
Right.
So not fully apples to apples because the sensor sizes are different, but the QEs are fairly close. The well depths are similar.
Yep.
I wanted it to be quick and easy, and so far I've been extremely happy with where I've ended up.
Yeah, I think if I'm gonna get a color camera, I'll probably start with the 533. Relatively speaking, it's $900.
Yeah, it's not that expensive.
And it's a cool camera. It's got no amp glow, and there's a ton of great photos out there for it. It's just the only thing, right now I got cameras all over the place. It's just that there's only one of them that's really good.
Well, and I will say this: the 533 is an amazing camera, and when you're trying to reach those smaller celestial bodies, it's an amazing aid in doing that because you're looking at a smaller area.
Yeah.
Not that it's zooming or you're getting more cropping. It's just natively grabbing a smaller slice of your overall imaging window. Being a video guy, coming from a photography background, I really wanted that wide frame. That's why I went 2600. I wanted that little bit wider frame. I wanted the bigger pixel density. And it gave me an extremely stable and reliable large format.
Yeah.
And it was native to what I wanted to do because a lot of the stuff, my background on my computer is the first shot I showed you guys with the compositing. That's my screen background. So I crop all my stuff typically to a 16:9 native because I run 4K screens.
That's because you're a video guy.
Exactly. And the hard part for me in the nature of the way the industry shifted, there is no screen format anymore because everything's all LED panels.
Yeah.
Everything's 192 by 192 or 168 by 168. Everything's a weird square, and they never equate to a number that we're used to dealing with for the last 15 years.
Yeah, what time we got here? It's
It's 8 o'clock for me, so 11 for you. 10 of.
We're coming close to 2 hours.
Yep.
All right. So next week, I think Mark kind of made us our topic.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll start talking a little bit about filters next week. So LRGB, SHO. I think he said something else. Nope, that's it. And we'll talk about the difference between narrowband and color filters.
Sounds good.
Cool.
Well, hopefully you guys got a lot out of this, and I'm sure a few of you guys noticed. Eric might not really realize because Dan and I did it. We're switching over to dealing strictly with YouTube and redistributing that link. So not to push you guys away from Facebook because it is a great platform, but this is going to allow us a little bit more control and that we can get the information out to you a little bit earlier by scheduling these things as opposed to waiting to go live. So hopefully you guys kind of help us get the word out that we're primarily going to be based on the YouTube platform, and we'll be redirecting those links to all of our social media outlets and platforms from there.
Yep, absolutely. You're right. It really gives us a lot more leeway as far as what we can do with it. Facebook kind of gives you a little bit of a stranglehold sometimes, and to get the voice out there, Facebook is just completely awesome because everybody's got it.
Yeah.
But there's just a little bit more things that YouTube could do that Facebook can't. So Steve Flanagan, great show, guys. Looks like you're getting the kinks out. See you next. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Somebody noticed. Some of our 7 watchers tonight have actually noticed.
Hey, we're up to 11. We're up to
Oh,
11.
we're up to 11. I see it. I see the 11. So that's concurrent viewers. That's not all viewers. That's just concurrent viewers.
Yeah.
But, thank you guys for watching again. I know Eric just put out a new video regarding the ASI Air and the CGX. So check that out. That's a really, really good video. You did a nice job on that one, Eric. They're very, very good. Jason is, I think, coming out with
Very
a new
close.
an unboxing, supposedly, right?
Yep, it's almost done. I've been working on it all day today.
Okay, and I'm going to be working. I just finished my second segment of Sequence Generator Pro video that I'll be talking about some of the settings that you need to set up in order to or use Sequence Generator Pro to its full capability. So be on the lookout for those couple of videos. I know Eric will pop out another one. He's been popping them out like crazy. You know, and
I've been learning.
What's that? You learning?
I'm learning. It's been fun.
I love the little 90-100% thing you got going on the Astro with Eric. I think it's great. I think the branding of it is completely awesome. So nice job with that, man. That's really good. And Mark said he loves SGP. And James is on. He says we are setting up a scope to check out the comet tonight. Good luck. I actually got Jason's got a picture.
Yep.
I got a picture. Eric, you got a picture?
Not yet, man. That's the goal.
Dude, let's go. You're behind the 8 ball, yeah.
I'm actually hoping to go this weekend. We're going to go to the west side of the state. Mark and I, we're going to see if we can't get a couple of shots of it up at night.
Yeah, I'm trying to do it at night
now. Is it up at night now, or is it still?
It is up at night now.
Primarily up at night. It's coming up a little bit too late, and the sun's blocking out most of the light.
Yep.
Okay. Well, it might be a little bit easier because now I can use my tracking mount.
So, one of the guys from the East Valley Astro Club actually did a pretty good infograph. It's kind of low on the horizon this early. Peak and closest pass is going to be on the 23rd.
Yep.
But we should be able to see it starting about 30 to 40 minutes after sunset. Starting at about 10 to 12 degrees above the horizon for most of us here in the 33rd latitude.
I think it only gets to about 15, 16 in New York.
Yeah.
I'll have to take a look in. I'll have to take a look on Sky Safari. So I still probably am going to have to end up going to one of the local parks where we have a softball field or something, you know. Or
just correct me if I'm wrong. I think now at nighttime, I think it's in the northwest.
Northwest, yep.
Yeah, the northwest now. So because I've got too many. Because I face, where my house is, I'm facing north for my camera. Everything is I'm going north. But I've got houses and, bushes and everything.
Were you flying? You had the tree in the way?
Yeah. Yep. I've got, you see my videos, I've got this whole slew of bushes, right in my backyard. So, Neowise would be way too low for me to try it. I got to go out. Time to break out the AVX.
Yeah, I'm gonna go out to the beach and the boardwalk and get bit up.
Yeah.
Eric, knock down the houses. Oh, I can't see that. Hold on a second. Whenever you go to that, I think your source is out.
Is that working now? Nope. Maybe. But that's the infograph, so you guys can see it real quick. Let me go back to the three shots.
Where's that located? What site is that? Is that on Facebook or where's that at?
No, that's a site, East Valley Astronomy Club. It's our local club here. I haven't officially joined, and as soon as I was ready to join, of course, they're not meeting because of COVID.
Right.
It's $35 a year, but one of the guys created this. I don't know if he did it or if he found it somewhere, but as the infograph says, it's 30 minutes after sunset, each of those different markers. So the 17th being this weekend, and the peak is going to be on the 27th.
Okay.
So that's a week from Tuesday, I believe.
So just keep your fingers crossed that it doesn't pull an atlas and crumble up.
Well, they said it's gotten past the sun and everything, so it should be.
So it looks good.
Yeah, and our closest pass is going to be the 23rd through the 25th, I think it is.
Yeah, 23rd, yeah.
So
the closest approach.
Yep. So, I mean, the morning ones were kind of nice because it gave you that kind of nice early morning glow.
Yeah, you get blue background, so it looked nice. When I got there, literally, you saw naked eye. You didn't even need anything. But
the weird thing for me, and I don't know if it was the same for you, Dan, I was expecting a streak, and having it come up and just kind of do this was really kind of weird.
Yeah, well, when you did that time lapse where it was kind of like the head didn't turn, but everything else.
Yeah. And so, for those of you that don't know it, I posted on my page. I've got to repost the YouTube video because I accidentally deleted it.
Nice.
Trying to clean up. I manage like 4 different YouTube channels, and was in the wrong one, deleting the wrong things, and
No.
so I got to repost that. But I'll get that out to our groups here, hopefully tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah.
But it was a really cool time lapse. I just set up and kind of let it rip. There's a couple of spots where it stutters, where I was stopping to check because I was doing my spray and pray method, using the anevometer and a 200 millimeter 2.8 on my D850, and just locked the shutter off and had the camera set to 3-second exposures and just let her rip. So the only reason I was stopping it was to make sure it's still in frame, because didn't have a whole lot of time to kind of guess, so I kind of could see the tail starting to come up in frame a little bit, and wanted to make sure I could get it go most of the way through frame before sunrise, and got it pretty dang close. I was pretty happy with it.
Nice,
man.
All right.
It's 10 o'clock.
Coming up on 11, so no sci-fi tonight. It's 11 o'clock.
Well, thanks again, guys. Thanks to all of our viewers. I think this was a great show, and I look forward to.
I hope viewers are, when we post this, they'll learn something, especially with the DSLR and all that stuff just getting started. So,
yep. If you guys have questions or comments, make sure you comment in the thread so we can follow up on this.
Yeah, we'll definitely throw it out on Facebook again. It's still being shared at this moment right now, so some other people are getting it as we go offline. But again, so next week we're going to be back on Wednesday. I actually may be on. I may be doing a live stream on either Friday or Saturday if imaging allows. I'll be live streaming that, and and that's pretty much it. So next Wednesday, 9 o'clock, we'll be doing some filters, LRGB, SHO. We'll be talking about that, different sizes, different types, different band passes, and we'll see you next Wednesday.
All right.
From AstroWorld.
Clear skies.
Clear skies, everybody.
Keep what is it? Keep imaging, keep educating, keep having fun. All right.